Separation often leaves both parties worse off financially, especially in the beginning. The considerable life change and emotional upheaval is unsettling enough, and rebuilding your finances and planning for your future may seem like a long way off as you get through each day. But here's the thing, taking control of your financial well-being can actually be a lifeline and a way to steady yourself, and you don't have to go it alone. Welcome to the Separation Guide podcast. My name's Kate Russell, and in today's episode, I'll be learning about financial advice and separation. My guest today is Ryan Watson. Ryan founded Tribeca Financial to help clients live their best life and support them in reaching their own unique financial goals. He has a passion for working with people at a crossroads in their life, and in particular, helping people going through separation. I started by asking Ryan, what is financial well-being and why is it important?
Financial well-being for us at Tribeca Financial is all about security and freedom of choice, both in the present or the now and in the future as well. We know there's not a lot of noise at the moment around financial well-being, but bringing it back to those two key tenements, security and freedom of choice. When people have an enhanced sense of financial well-being, they'll have a higher level of security, so they're comfortable and more secure, and freedom of choice to live the life that they want. And that really dovetails into why that's important. Because as you can imagine, people living their life where they have that sense of security and freedom of choice, free to do the things that they want, they're probably living a more fulfilled and enjoyable life. They're not worrying about the X's and O's or money on the day-to-day or the week-to-week. What they're focused on is more about life's experiences and the way that they contribute.
And free to make choices without worrying about the consequences?
Yeah, absolutely. Free to make the choices where they're not worried about necessarily the dollars and cents on a day-to-day basis. So security for the fact that they know they have some savings or some money put away for a rainy day. Secure that they know what they spend, so they're in charge of their cash flow or money. Secure for the fact that they know the relationship that they have with money. We tend to find there's probably two categories of people without opinion. There's ones where people are in charge of money and it enables the life they want to live. And then there are people who money's in charge of them and it really dictates a lot of their life, their happiness and otherwise. Now, without judgment or opinion, our opportunity or job as an advice firm or a financial wellbeing advice firm is helping people understand their relationship with money and as best we can put them in charge of it and the decisions they make, removing a lot of guilt and shame through that process and empowering them. It's one of these beautiful parts of our job when we see people understand, empowered, and that's why we've built a whole advice firm around a brand promise around My Good Life. It's not what we want for people, and it's not about $1 million in super by age 67. It's about what's important to people in life, through what we call live, love, learn, legacy and laugh, like what's truly important to people or their family, their direct family unit. We put those goals in place, or we help them identify them first and put them in place, and then we build a strategy, financial strategies around cash flow, investment and the like, and able to have an enhanced sense of that security and freedom of choice.
Ryan, you've used a lot of words in that description that are emotional words, which is a really interesting way to approach money rather than being really, looking at the bottom line or looking at the numbers on a page and looking at the emotional side of it. So I wonder what inspired you to look at money differently like that, and also what inspired you to want to work with people through their separation?
The journey for us in terms of financial wellbeing started about 13 years ago, where advice had become a lot bank-centric and it had become a lot about products. But my contention was people want to see an advisor because they want to understand what's important to them and how can an advisor help them in a qualitative and a quantitative sense. So security, freedom of choice, but also put them in a better financial position. That led us on a journey of discovery and research around what financial wellbeing truly means. And what we discovered in that some part of that journey, Kate, was everyone has a relationship with money, and it's what we call their money script, and it's generally forms between the age of 8 and 10. But most people aren't conscious of their relationship with money. Now, we could see two siblings who grew up in the same household but have a completely different relationship with money, savers, spenders, or somewhere in between. Our journey of discovery with our clients is around, without judgment again, it's coaching and understanding is for people to understand what is their relationship with money, and or what would they like it to be. So once they have those light bulbs or those epiphany moments around it, they can unlock themselves, they can decrease those levels of guilt and shame, and therefore they're empowered to create the change that they want. That was the discovery that we did. And working with money, I've always had the contention too, Kate, that money should be there to enable people to live whatever life they want. Now, if that's a car or a watch or a house, that's okay, no worries. But more often than not, with most people that we see, it is family, it is friends, it is hobbies, it is experiences that's truly important to people when we peel that back. So people often come to see us and they'll have their set of needs and wants and what they need. Our real value is when we help people understand what's really important to them through understanding their intrinsic needs. That's what's really important. Unwrapping that, generally it's simple around those 4 key areas: family, friends, holidays, hobbies, and then experiences. And we can build that financial strategy off the back of it so they can stop worrying about money, and start living for the experience.
For people who are going through separation, what are some of the perhaps unique financial challenges that people are bringing in to speak to you about when you first meet someone like that?
Relating it back directly to financial well-being is there's generally low levels of security and potentially low levels of freedom of choice. So we talk a lot about Maslow's hierarchy of needs and that live, love, learn, legacy, and laugh. So we start with the live. So where do people want to live in the short term, and try and give them the security around that, and then bank account structures and cash flow and the like. So we'll really look at what are the needs here and now. Literally, we call it the top right-hand side of the whiteboard, and that's what we use with every client. So whether that's physically or virtually, because we serve people all across Australia, what are their needs in their own words? And we will look to deal and address with that as the most important part there. So if I'm looking at what are the commonalities amongst people coming to see us, low levels of security, low levels of certainty, we want to get the power back to them, understand what their circumstance is, their asset, liability, income and expenditure within reason, what we can know at that time, and then give them the 6 and the 12-month piece around what can they focus on and the fact they'll be okay. Talking with a family lawyer this morning, and he was talking about one of his clients who's got several million, or he'll receive through a divorce, but he's worried about losing everything and becoming bankrupt. Now, he's in his own lane and that's what's consuming him at the moment. But by seeing someone like us, respectfully, who can be more objective, we talk about people being in the play versus us being in the coach's box, that sporting analogy, we can see everything that's going on and we can break it down for people and then enable or empower them through understanding that then they can get those increased levels of security and freedom of choice, even off the back of a discovery process, an hour and a half meeting. They can really walk out with a greater sense of confidence. Something else as a footnote too, Kate, that we often say is it's a problem shared is a problem halved. So someone sharing those problems with us, that top right-hand side of their whiteboard, we can work through those types of things. Like people might be really concerned about, I want to keep the family home, or I want to live in the same suburb. We can talk through some scenario-based modelling about, okay, if you do that, that might extend your working life by 5 to 10 years, or you might have to work 5 days a week instead of 3, or for you to stay in the same suburb and the same schooling, what if you look to rent somewhere that had an extended lease of 2 to 3 years? It's not for us to tell people what to do, but we can present other scenarios, potentially when they're feeling really at effect or have a fixed mindset around what things might be. We can play scenarios to them that can then open up their manner of thinking.
Those decisions that can often be very heavy with emotion, you can give them some clarity so they can kind of lift their head up and see what the future might look like, depending on which way they go.
Absolutely. In the conversation we had this morning around the gentleman, he thinks he's going to go bankrupt. He won't. We've got scenario-based tools and modelling which we can map out for people that can demonstrate that. So we know a picture speaks 1,000 words. Based on basically simple modelling, we can take people through that. So just reiterating, we often see people that low level of security. Where am I going to live? How am I going to manage my money? How am I going to pay my bills? We're dealing with that level in that live space that we can give people a lot of security.
So there's people, I guess, coming into separation who kind of maybe fit into two camps with concerns around money. One concern might be about the amount of money they have or worry of what might happen to that. But also there may be people coming in who perhaps haven't really managed their financial affairs that much. Their partner might have done it. Mm-hmm. And they're kind of coming into this new single life kind of cold as far as money goes. So if, say, my partner's always taking care of things like the bills, the mortgage, the super, that kind of longer term planning, where do I even start? And what steps could I take to prepare myself for that new life?
I love the fact that you bring that up, Kate. We often see people in that second scenario where they haven't managed the household money. Without stereotyping, we often see in partnered relationships that it's a bit of divide and conquer. People will play to their speciality and they'll serve those parts in a relationship. So people who are newly single or about to, and they have to manage their own money, whether they start with education. So for us at Tribeca, we've got a value of empathy. So to put ourselves in someone else's shoes and allow ourselves to be affected by it. 2 ears, 1 mouth. Listening, what's really important to them, and we will take them on a journey through what we call internally, this pace and lead approach around how much can they digest and what's really important to them. We know money can be a scary thing, reverting back to those money habits, the relationship we have with them, or unconscious. So through understanding and education, we can take people on that journey. Just a light example, Kate, people talk about budgeting or cash flow. For us, cash flow is really important, and we do it through setting up simple bank account structures, discretionary account, offset depending if there's a loan there, because people live busy lives and we can automate that approach so people don't have to reconcile their cash flow on a monthly or weekly basis. It's not about that. It's about setting up structures in a busy life that will just work for them so they can concentrate on themselves or their children at the time, and money just simply works for them. So education, structure, and the value in a quality advisor having enough emotional intelligence as well, understanding where that person is at, how much can they absorb, and then taking them on a journey around it as well.
And that really comes back to the idea of security. You have the security that your money is going to work for you in the background without having to think about it all the time.
That's exactly right. And it's also as important as the goal-setting process that we take our clients on. It's not what we want for them. We will take them through it at the right time. We'll take them through a goal-setting approach that's specific to them around that live, love, learn, legacy, and laugh. Therefore, they build and create emotional attachment to those goals. We build the financial strategy that can be digested in one page. Therefore, they understand it and they're enabled to go and create effect. We will continue to metaphorically stand beside them and help support them over the journey for as long as that needs to be. And that can be an ongoing basis too. But it's really for them to understand what's important to them so they can get back to that, family, holidays, hobbies, and experiences.
Thinking about the journey that people might be on throughout that period, you're going to have people who are maybe thinking about separation and feeling very fearful about what that might look like, especially financially for them, on top of all the emotional stuff. Then you've got people who are in the settlement phase, don't quite know what they should be negotiating for. Mm-hmm. And then people who have a settlement and are looking into the longer term. Do you think there's value in speaking to a financial planner or coach if you're considering separation, but you haven't talked to your partner about it yet?
I certainly think there is value in it if it's a place that you need to understand what the financial implications will be, or you are generating low levels of security and freedom of choice. I think if it's one of the key factors that's holding you back from making the decision, there's no doubt that people should seek advice or at least guidance and greater understanding around it, because from the education and understanding will come the empowerment. And if it enables them to then make a decision that they probably know is right for them, but they're just being held back by the uncertainty or the unknown, and I don't want to say tick a box, but we can create that understanding for them, that they're empowered to go and make a really big, crucial decision in their life, they should reach out and have a confidential conversation.
And I suppose even if that separation never happens, having greater clarity about your finances and your financial position is really valuable to anybody.
Absolutely.
If they don't go down the path, I suppose. Yeah.
Well, that's it. And the stats in terms of relationship, and we're no experts in this space, but leading more into it, the relationship breakdown, top two centre around infidelity and then money. So if people are still in a relationship but have concerns, getting education or advice around money, it might actually enable them to create greater certainty in that relationship and maybe build from there. So it might certainly help.
Yeah. Now, if I am in that pre-separation stage and I think just thinking, oh, my money's going to be half or my money's going to be just what I bring in and I'm not a primary income earner, I mean, is that the reality of the situation when someone might enter a separation? Do they just get half or are they just left with their own money? And what other sources of income might someone be eligible for?
Generally, we rely on their legal counsel at the time in terms of where they think they might end up as a percentage of the assets. And then we can produce some scenario-based modelling off the back of that. We're really guided by that. And the scenario-based modelling that we produce is conservative, inclusive of fees and the like. And generally it's three. It's worst case, middle, and then best case. And if people are going through a separation, that then empowers them through, if they get to mediation or things like that, that they have an understanding and they have some confidence around where they need to get to either live or what's, for want of a better term, what's an outperform position. For people, in terms of income and assistance or benefits, we always direct people to the likes of Centrelink, and there are officers that we work with in order for people to get a holistic understanding around how they can get that assistance or those benefits in the cards as well, to put them in the best position then too.
Okay, so you've got like a good view across what people might be eligible for, and you can point them in the right direction to find out exactly what their position is going to look like.
Yeah, and that's why we're quite fortunate at Tribeca, Kate, for the fact that we've got 10 advisors that work here with us, and they all have differing skill sets as well, life experience, expertise and the like. So when people are introduced to us, we obviously get a briefing or an introductory phone call about where they're at and what's their situation. And then we're quite fortunate in that sense that we can direct individual clients based on personality type, advice, experience, expertise, want and need and the like as well. That's at our discretion, which is great.
Great. So moving a little bit further into that journey, and you touched on it a little bit about when I'm in a position that separation has occurred and I'm looking at negotiating that settlement. Mm-hmm. So what's the value in getting the advice then? I guess what's important for people to consider about those short and longer term needs when they are deciding how they might negotiate that asset split, especially considering things like, say, a cash payout versus a superannuation split.
Yeah, it really comes back to, as best we can, helping our clients not remove but decrease the emotion from the situation and dial up the logic. So what's truly important to them. We often see a lot of people want to keep the family home, and of course that can be a consideration, but it's conversations around if people are, say over 50 and the like, but they want to keep the family home and there might be a significant mortgage, that might extend their need to work by 10 or 15 years. Or it might extend people's need to work from 3 days to 5 days a week. So it's all relative and in consideration. Really exploring with them the needs or why they're choosing in that instance to hold or maintain a family home versus what they really want from life. And where do they want to be medium term? If the kids are getting older and they might be moving out in the next few years, do they need the size of that family? Is that truly important to them? What we also consider as well is around tax factors, capital gains and the like as well. If there's investment properties, superannuation, self-managed and the like as well, it's all relative. The overarching piece here, Kate, is try and remove or diminish or decrease, I should say, as much emotion as we can and get back to what's really important to them. So the percentage within reason will be what it will be, but the breakup of the assets, does a particular partner need income-producing assets because the kids are younger or they're choosing to work less or whatever it is? It's really relative to their personal circumstance and what's important to them, and then we can produce the scenarios. It's really important to underline here too, Kate, that we never tell people what to do. we like to let the projections, scenario-based modelling and the client's own goals talk for themselves and enable or empower them to make a decision.
Look, this negotiation stage is something people may choose to work through a lot of that themselves. They might have an independent legal advice or a mediator, say now, legally qualified mediator supporting them through that. Your job is to help them understand the financial outcome of that split, right?
Yeah, you're spot on, Kate. Our job is to help them understand the financial consequence of that breakup. If it ends up 55-45, what's the makeup of that 55%? If people are under 40, they don't want the majority probably to be in super. So it is all about, it's something for today, but also for tomorrow as well. So it might pay to have 50% of the 50-50 split in super, depending on what age you are, or how does the home equate to that as well? So for us, it's all about financial consequence. If you make this decision, then this is what will be. People might, if there's a holiday home, they might, I really want to hold on to, okay, cool. But if you decide to sell it in 3 years, there'll be this CGT or capital gains tax consequence. That needs to be factored into the 55% as well. Do you really want to hold on to it long term? Or is it, if you're on the fence about it, well, we need to factor in the fact that there'll be tax consequences around it as well. Also, do people need a lump sum with which to generate an income from? Okay, if you've got the family home and super and you've foregone any cash or anything else, how are you going to generate that income? It's return to work extended period or extended days. So it's really understanding the if this, then that, if this, then that, and that really empowers people. And that we just see them grow in confidence through the understanding and education.
Yeah, and helping take that emotional veil off, I suppose, to have the clarity, to really understand the outcomes. Yeah.
Exactly right. If there's working with people who are going through this really, really difficult time in their life, there's one key thing we continue to come back to. It's help. How can we help people who are going through this scenario? Help by understanding, by listening, and then using our EQ and our IQ and our financial expertise and relating it back to the security and the freedom of choice. People walk taller, greater sense of confidence, greater sense of happiness. Things are still going on in their life that are really, really hard. But if we can take some of the burden off them in this instance, that would be fantastic.
So if you have that foresight to know in the negotiation stage what that's going to look like for you if you give or take a little bit here and there, what an empowering thing to do for someone.
Absolutely. And I come back to it, instead of it being 45, 55 or whatever the percentage breakup will be and it becoming very adversarial and win-lose as opposed to...
Agreement,
53, 4, or what is this actually? Can I live? Can I live where I want to? Can I have the security that I want? Is my cash flow going to be okay? And can I move on? Do I want 6 to 24 months of emotional distraction and all the financials expense that comes with long drawn out, media and whatever else is, or can I get my empowerment back? I know what I need and I can go in there and try and be as logical as I can be.
Are there any, tax implications that you might regularly see coming up when people have separated assets? And maybe how could you think about protecting your financial position during separation?
Yeah, so the key ones are generally around investment. So if we put the principal home to one side and superannuation to a side as well, because that's a tax-effective environment, it's really relating to investment properties or other outside investments. And whilst, the gross amount might be negotiated in terms of a settlement, then any of those investments that are sold over the journey, there'll be tax consequences unless that investment was purchased pre-September 1985 where there's no CGT. So that needs to be factored in. How long would you like to maintain that investment? If people are going to maintain it for 5, 10, 15 years, probably 7, 10 plus years, then it's not really consideration. But if it's, I'm not sure if I will or I might plan on moving and the like, then a tax consequence should be factored into from I suppose the individual side.
If there is an investment property in the relationship and it's a joint owned property and one party buys the other one out of that property, are there tax implications on doing that?
Yeah, there are. And that's where the way that we work as well, we work with obviously a group of accountants, multiple accountants as well. So we'll bring them in on that basis too. We provide financial advice and we can do some tax consideration, but we'll bring in experts depending on how complicated matters are around that to make sure that people are empowered and understand. So we often, in this family law space, are often working with accountants around what that actually means as well. So once again, driving back to that logic piece. So the percentage is one thing, win, lose, win, lose, lose, but what does it practically mean for that person and or their family unit?
What are some ways when someone's coming into this that they can ensure that their children are financially secure after a separation has happened with the family?
There's two parts. The first one being, I suppose a fair and negotiated settlement to provide for the children, that they're looked after, as well as a financial agreement that could include child support and the like as well. Important part that's maybe or potentially sometimes missed is around the estate planning piece. And if one of the parents is to pass away in future, setting up the right estate planning through wills, powers of attorney, but also testamentary trusts as well. So with the passing parent, the money goes into that legal trust and is there to provide for the children, at least until the age of 18, 21, 25, whatever's proposed as well. So there's two parts. There's the here and now, so the children being provided for, clothing, schooling and the like, living. But then there's also, unfortunately, sometimes when people pass on, are they provided for in terms of that estate planning need as well?
Yeah, that's a really good point. And maybe perhaps looking past, separation, often people will repartner. And are there some things that people can set up for some financial protections for the children of that first relationship when they enter into a new relationship? Is that something people need to consider?
It's certainly something people need to consider. And this is once again, Kate, where we will lean on the legal expertise in this instance. So we talked earlier about us working with accountants and exploring tax consequences and the like. In terms of the legal side and being provided for with new relationships and partnerships as well, we talked earlier about testamentary trusts and obviously in the event of someone's passing. We're also seeing more as well around financial agreements these days that are being done really well. Not that anyone gets a better or a worse deal in inverted commas, but it goes to transparency and understanding about what will happen when people are in, second, third, or whatever it is, relationships, maybe have children or the other way, so they understand what's going on. So us as financial advisors for existing clients, but if they're in new relationships, we're exploring a lot more of that these days with family lawyers.
Something for people to just be aware of when they're starting a new relationship.
Yeah, it's still not common enough here in Australia. We've got an advisor who's immigrated from South Africa, and wills as well as financial agreements in relationships, everyone does it. In Australia, the financial agreements, there's a lot of, it takes the romance out of it, but I think over time, hopefully we can become more pragmatic with the right advice because it just provides transparency and clarity to people.
Yeah, and it's the security, right?
Again, security. People know what's happening. It's not designed for anyone to get a better or a worse deal. They won't stack up if they're not done. Each individual party needs to get legal advice, independent legal advice anyway around them.
I feel like I kind of leapfrogged a very important part of the whole settlement process there by jumping ahead to a potential new relationship. So I might come back to that typical separation journey. So we've talked about before you separate, you might want a bit of just clarity about your situation and what your position is. Mm-hmm. We've talked about leading into negotiation and really understanding what the outcomes of those negotiations are and how financial advice can support you there. Yep. And then the last thing is really when you have settled. So this is perhaps the time when financial advisors will come in and really support you with some longer-term strategies around what you might do with the funds from your settlement. So what do you typically offer people at that point, after the modelling has happened? What does your service look like after that? Yeah,
so that's where we take people on that journey through a goal-setting structure, what we call 10-3 now. So it's where do they want to be in 10 years, where do they want to be in 3, and then what effective change do they need to create now under cash flow investment And then contingency, so contingency being life insurance and income protection, but also the estate planning discussion. Now, I don't want the 10-3 now to scare anybody. That's malleable. If people want to think in shorter timeframes, we can do 3-1 now, we can do 5-3 now. So it's not so much about that. It's just how much any individual client can digest at that point in time. But we want to take them on a short, medium and long-term goal-setting journey, document those 5 L's, live, love, learn, legacy and laugh, and then we build the financial strategy off the back of it. So they know the assets they've got, or they've got the total asset pool they've got. We go through that goal-setting process, and then we can match that financial strategy. And if there's any misalignment, well, we can have those conversations too, but we can make it really clear, and they're empowered. As I said earlier, our brand promise around My Good Life, it's what's important to them, and that family unit now, if it's children, it's not children, whatever it looks like, it's bespoke to them, and they have built their goals. And what we see over years of working with people, Kate, is they're actually bringing forward those goals. They're ticking them off quicker than they actually thought. So if it's holidays or hobbies or families or experiences, it's great. And that's not at our behest. They just get really excited and involved in the process. And then when they're doing that, we liken it to peeling layers of the onion. They'll just continue to grow and evolve through that, set themselves other goals, how they can connect, living legacy and the like as well. So post-divorce, post-settlement, it's really around resetting those goals, what's truly important to them, what have they learned, what do they want out of money, how does it provide them with the experience, and then we enable them through the structure, that cash flow, the investment and contingency, and they're empowered to go away and live that good life.
Now, Ryan, you talk about investment, and I know, a lot of people might go, investment, I can't afford to invest. When you talk about investment, we're talking about things like, it could be superannuation. It could be a family home. We're not necessarily talking about investment properties or shares or things like that, are we?
No, we're not at all. So, for us as strategic financial advisors, we do a risk profile. So in a risk profile, we look at what are the current assets, and we're big believers on diversification. So first we'll understand what's someone's appetite for risk, and we rate it from 1 to 10, 1 being ultra conservative, 10 being high growth. No judgment or opinion. We'll go through that and have the conversations after the risk profile process, but we'll also go back and test in those conversations to make sure that that's true and stacks up. From that point, we'll have a look at how people have structured their asset, liability, income and expenditure, and then we'll look to invest appropriately. Yeah, principal resident, people often forget that's generally people's biggest investment. Principal resident, but it's still an investment. They often forget that. So when we talk about Australian property, people are in it. Superannuation, people get really confused. For us, superannuation, 2-step. It's a tax-effective environment. Often on the way in, you're taxed at 15% and 0 on the way out in terms of an income stream and retirement. The second part is how it's invested. And we can talk about this at another time. We're index investors, so we don't choose the market, can't pick the market. We track the market, takes the bumps out of it, but it's really consistent and considered way of investing. So that's superannuation, and then anything in between. We can talk about what people want to achieve. Do they want to pay for education? Do they need an income stream? And then we'll match that to them. So we really, I hate the term trade, but we're all about adding value to clients as opposed to perceived value. Clear, it's transparent, how are we adding the value? Because if they can't understand or see the added value, then it makes it harder to buy into the advice, obviously.
You have a lot of services that you offer through Tribeca, and there will be people who need an ongoing relationship with a financial advisor who's going to work with them on an ongoing basis, or there may be people who just need to be pointed in the right direction, given a bit of modelling, understand their position, and then after that they could be happy to continue on their way. What are the services you offer around those two categories?
Yeah, and we're unlike a lot of other advice firms because we have a service proposition for both. So what we call the upfront or the initial advice process. So it is that goal setting, the 10-3 now. So it's the discovery meeting or appointment process into a strategy appointment. So reconfirming some of those assumptions, what we came up with in the first or discovery meeting, and then we move to what we call a My Good Life or a statement of advice, which is a formal legal document. So basically a 3-step process on our upfront or initial process. And then it's more often than not, but not all clients, Then there's an ongoing service phase as well. So that's renewable every 12 months. And we generally meet with our clients 2 to 3 times a year. And that's focused on accountability and helping people through the process as well. As we know, life's not a straight line. There are always things that pop up. So we work with our clients. So if you think about initial process and then the ongoing process as well to make sure that people are on track. I know for myself and other things in life, if I'm not held to account by somebody, then I can go off track. So it's horses for courses in terms of what people need at that time. It's certainly not, if you don't want to work with us on an ongoing basis, we can't help you up front. At the end of the day, we are here to help people, and we will only look to engage people upfront and or ongoing based on us being able to demonstrate value to our clients. Otherwise, we won't look to engage.
So you're kind of like a personal trainer for your finances, right?
Yeah,
you're there to hold people accountable and set those goals.
Yeah, we often use that analogy for the fact that, we can inspire, educate, support, motivate, but we can't lift the weights or get on the treadmill for the person. So, we can put a plan in place. The goal setting is obviously about the buy-in, and it's individual or bespoke to that person or their family. And then we're there to support them. And we know that it's not always going to go the right way, or people, might have a holiday and extended spending and stuff. We never come from a place of judgment or opinion. We've seen a lot of it before. We're human. We make mistakes in our own lives as well. It's important to note that. So we can help to keep people on track on an ongoing basis.
I would like to just ask a question around the name of a financial advisor and, the regulations around that versus something, say, financial coaching, which is maybe the more educational side of what you do. How would you define those two things?
The financial advisor, you have to be an authorised representative of an Australian financial services licence, of which we have our own. So we've got our own financial service licence. And generally university qualified, post-grad as well, heavily regulated, high levels of compliance. I'm a responsible manager of our AFSL as well, as compared to a financial coach, which there's basically no regulation at all, and it's more on a consultative or coaching basis as it sounds. So, for us as financial advisors, we do a lot of the coaching, and it's as much about the psychology and understanding and habits as we have the significant overlay of the education, compliance, regulatory supervision and the like as well. So really a financial advisor, the way we do it at Tribeca, is the best of both worlds.
Wonderful. And I have my final question. How much does it cost to get a financial advisor? I know a lot of people might have that question who might be listening to the podcast.
It's a really good question. So generally, to engage an advisor at Tribeca through the upfront or initial part of the process starts at $6,000, but to go through the whole process, and the same on an ongoing basis. But the important stipulation with the relationship that we've built with the separation guide is that we will take people through that discovery appointment process for $660. No one's compelled to engage us through that initial or through the full way of the initial process. So it's just $660 for the discovery process. Another important stipulation, a lot of work we've done, Kate, over the last few years is around demonstrating value. So for the fees that we charge at Tribeca, we will generate a 4 to 5 times value off the back of that. So if someone was to engage us through a full initial process at minimum of $6,000, we'd be generating at least $16,000 to $20,000 of value, and the same on an ongoing basis. And we can demonstrate that through a process that we built around a value factor, through income and assets and the like as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So there are obviously fees involved, but return on those fees will pay for themselves.
Absolutely, that's the case, and this is something that we've worked really hard on, because my contention as CEO of Tribeca is that you come to see an advisor to put you in a better financial position. It's the qualitative is as important as the quantitative, so the security and the freedom of choice. But at the end of the day, there has to be a return, through a number of areas. People need to be put in a better financial position. So just to reiterate, people are investing that $6,000 up front, then the minimum they should be getting is $24,000 of value from us, and we can demonstrate that, and same on an ongoing basis. And we are held to account on that basis if people choose to engage us on an ongoing basis, because it's an opt-in every year. So it's incumbent upon us to demonstrate the value for people to continue to re-engage.
Ryan, thank you so much for your time today. That's
no worries.
Just really going to help a lot of people understand the process and the value that a financial advisor and financial coach can add to them going through this time.
Fantastic. Thanks for the opportunity, Kate.
Thank you for listening to the Separation Guide podcast. If you're thinking about separating but aren't sure what steps to take next, take our free 5-minute Q&A. It explains how divorce and separation work and helps connect you with experts and services to get you through the maze. Just head to theseparationguide.com.au. From podcasts to templates, our website also has plenty of free resources to get you started.
In the spirit of reconciliation, the Separation Guide acknowledges the traditional custodians of country throughout Australia and their connections to land, sea and community. We pay our respect to their elders past and present and extend that respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islanders people today.